Welcome to I Hate James Dobson, a podcast where I talk about clinical treatment plans and eating butts.
Is that what today's about?
That's today's episode.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. My name is Jake. I am a former evangelical turned queer sex therapist. And today, I am overjoyed to be once again joined by the Duchess of Cornwall, Brooke.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that Fergie? Oh no, it was Camilla, right?
I think so. I think it's Camilla.
Yeah.
It's like the princess in waiting, I believe.
Yeah, but Cornwall.
I have a whole joke in here why I originally called you the Duchess of Soybean Wall because we live in Illinois. Also, because I would way too much research for this joke, Illinois grows the most soybeans of any state. We grow 15% of all U.S. soybeans. So,
You do?
the Duchess of Soybean Wall, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Well, how come I never knew about our soybean proclivities?
Because you're an elite liberal resigned to live in the city forever.
It's because they were like, what's cooler, Abraham Lincoln or soybeans? Lincoln.
Brooke, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was delicious. It was so good. I had turkey 2 times, two
Nice.
different days. One on actual Thanksgiving proper and one on the day after Thanksgiving at Friendsgiving. And that was so good. And the potatoes were so good. And this was the first year that I really enjoyed and got into green bean casserole.
Mmm.
It never was like a standout for me before, but it was really good. How was yours?
It was good. My parents came in. Brad and Janet and Tyler were here. Brooke hates them and didn't want to see them, and so
That's not true. I did want to see them very much, but I was having a little trouble getting out the door on Thursday. And then on Friday, I sort of misunderstood, and I thought I was going to come to Andersonville.
yeah,
Then,
that was fully my fault. I was
no,
like, "Hey, we're going to Andersonville," and then I didn't text you while we were in Andersonville. So
yeah, but that's all right. Jake and I aren't always great at like finalizing the details on things, but it's okay. But I couldn't get all the way back to where you live, which is not Andersonville, in time to go to the thing I had to go to, which is by my house.
it was okay. It is kind of a wonder that we were able to make the podcast happen so regularly.
I know. I'm always impressed by that too.
For what it's worth, Brad and Janet and Tyler send their warmest regards. And they look forward to meeting you at some point. There's a number of things we're like, oh, we should tell Brooke about this. We passed a Devil Dogs in Andersonville, and they're
Yeah.
like, should we eat there? And I was like, it is Year of the Hot Dog approved.
Yeah.
And
That's where we went on Halloween, dressed as hot dogs.
brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Oh, I'm supposed to give a shout out to somebody. Is that legal? Can we do that?
Yes, it is.
There's somebody in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who has been celebrating Year of the Hot Dog alongside of us, who I don't know, but who
Amazing.
is friends with my BFF who lives in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
My BFF told me I can use her real name, so her name is Sarah, and her friend is Gina, and I'm supposed to give a shout out to Gina, who's apparently our #1 fan. Shout out, Gina.
Gina, we love you. Honestly, there's no higher compliment to me than celebrating Year of the Hot Dog with us. With Brooke specifically. I'm just on this bandwagon.
And also, Gina is a big D&D person
Incredible.
and really loved our D&D episode. So thanks, Gina.
We love you, Gina.
We love you, Gina. We don't do shout outs usually, but do it for the bestie.
Everybody, send your biggest congratulations to Brooke, who, as of recording, will have just passed her licensing test.
No
And if you
pressure.
didn't, we'll cut this bit.
Yeah, I'm taking my test on Friday. I've spent the entire last day of my Thanksgiving vacation studying somatic disorder. No.
Eating and
that's
feeding
not-
disorders?
No. That was last
Oh.
week. Sleep disorders,
Sleep disorders.
which always make me actually feel sleepy, and sexual disorders, which are controversial. And what is it called? Paraphilic disorder?
Paraphilias.
Yeah. Those are a little controversial too. Then tonight is going to be gender dysphoria, which also controversial. So it's been a controversial day.
I love diagnosing people with gender dysphoria. It's a very rigorous process to go, are you trans? Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah, I will be excited when we have a new DSM and maybe some of those things get moved around a little bit because
Hmm.
there are. It was very strange. I'm curious what you think of this as a sex therapist. Like, it was very strange to see things that are clearly like problematic
Hmm.
next to things that are like not so much problematic, right? Like a foot fetish and pedophilia should not be side by side on the same page.
Yeah, I taught a class about sexuality in therapy this semester, and we went over the paraphilias, and they're like, okay, we get why pedophilia would be on here. Why is transvestism,
Right,
cross-dressing, part of this? So we had
right.
a good old conversation about what counts as clinically significant distress.
Yeah. There's also a lot of stuff that like changes dramatically if consent is involved,
Hmm.
right? So that's been really interesting. I mean, obviously not pedophilia. What a way to start the podcast. But anyway, long story short, I will have passed this exam. I just told Jake I'm going to have my party on Friday night if I pass, and if I don't pass,
A wonderful thing for a therapist to say.
yeah, cut that part out.
I will say this is kind of the tone of the episode, kind of here to the end. So,
All right.
and just one last reminder, send in your cues for our Christmas episode. We want to hear all of them. We got some incredible ones already. I'm very excited. And Brooke, I have some surprises for you in the Christmas episode now, and I am excited. We're gonna have so much
I
fun.
We're gonna have so much fun. I want you to know, just to temper your expectations, that a lot of the very grand surprises that I hoped for and wished for and planned are not coming through. So I have used my previous life skills of creative writing to create some new surprises for you. And I'm pretty proud of them, if I do say so myself. So
I'm stoked.
it's going to be a homemade Christmas.
Listen, I have no expectations, which means everything is just going to be incredible to me.
Okay, great. So everybody join us for Hollybone Secular Christmas Spectacular, which will be the next episode. That's not right, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the questions are fun. Please keep sending them in.
And now to our main event. Last episode, we talked about a cultural touchstone, Jesus Camp. We laughed, we cried, we had nuanced conversations about the evolution of evangelicalism in the last 20 years. We haven't actually talked about a Dobson book in a hot second now.
Hmm.
It has not been since episode 39, when we talked about Life on the Edge. Since then, we've talked about Dungeons and Dragons, love languages, Dare to Share, and so on. And that's been fun. And while I am here generally to talk about the culture of evangelicalism, I am first and foremost a hater. And today, there is a lot to hate. The ethos of this book can be described as, you really thought you did something there, huh?
Oh no.
It is an unfocused, self-confident, and surprisingly bigoted work, even by Dobson standards. Hi, hello, Editing Jake here, popping in for a quick content warning as well. This book is all of those things, but it also has a lot of so-called advice that downplays things like intimate partner violence. Pretty much exactly how you'd expect Dobson to talk about it. I'll mark more specific sections as they come up, but it's a pretty central feature to this book called Love Must Be Tough. So girls, gays, theys, and our straight guy allies, today we're going to be talking about, I don't have a backpack, we're doing this online, Love Must Be Tough.
Love Must Be Tough?
Yes.
Is this another marriage book?
Kind of.
Oh God.
Originally published in 1983, my copy is a reprint from 1996.
Okay, great. I feel like Dobson's really like prime Dobson when we get into like the 70s and 80s era. Right?
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about that. Before we dive in, let's talk about where Dobson was in his career at this time. We're talking early 80s and mid 90s. This is a quote from the intro to the book written by somebody else. Quote, "Today, Focus on the Family reaches millions of listeners each week through daily radio broadcasts on 1,951 affiliates in the United States and Canada, and 2,000 more across the world. Through a staff of some 1,200 men and women, FODF administers over 60 separate ministries, publishes 10 magazines, and distributes 130,000 tapes each month, and publishes an average of 50 books per year, specifically addressing the principles of Christian living." So Focus on the Family was a force at this time. They are at the kind of height of their power that continued on well into today. And Dobson is really high on his own supply.
Gross.
Part 1, what is this book? I said it was unfocused. It's actually like really hard to figure out and describe what this book is. Dobson opens the book with this fictitious narrative that I want to include both because it helps frame it and because there's a very fun part of our lore that I think gets mentioned.
Okay.
So this is a husband talking to his wife. Quote, "Sit down, Carol. I have to talk to you about something very serious."
Wait. You can't even go on because already I feel like Sit Down Carol is the new wrong Brenda.
Put a pin in that. I have to talk to you about something very serious. I know what I'm going to say will come as a shock to you, but I can't withhold the truth any longer. You deserve to know that I've been involved in an affair with a woman at the office for nearly 18 months. Her name is Brenda.
Oh. Brenda! First D&D and now this?
She's showing up everywhere. Brenda's the third character.
Girl.
And she is very attractive.
What? Things not to say when you're coming clean to your spouse.
It started.
I love you. She's way better than
She's so hot. It started as an innocent flirtation, but it quickly progressed into something more. Much more. Now, we are unable to pretend any longer. That's why I've made an appointment with an attorney, and I plan to divorce you as quickly as possible.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. Honestly, I am. What more can I say? I never intended to hurt you. I just don't love you any longer. And I do love Brenda. Very deeply. So, Carol, I'm asking you to make this easy for both of us. And of course, for the kids. We'll all be better off as soon as this mess is settled.
That's... Like Dobson wrote that?
Yes. This book is meant for Carol, basically.
Oh no. Oh god, is this going to be why you should stay with him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
That's kind of the...
Oh no, Jake. I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I just love Brenda way more than you.
She's just so much hotter.
I don't even know if I can do... I might have to go.
It goes to some places you'd expect in ways that are worse than you'd expect, and to some places you never would expect. We're in for a ride today.
That looks like a thick book, too.
It is. We have a lot of quotes.
Okay.
Dobson says later in the introduction, quote, "My purpose in writing this book has been to offer some practical tools and understandings which should be useful in drawing an apathetic husband or wife back into the direction of commitment."
Is he going to tell the man to also recommit to a cheating wife?
Yes.
Okay.
So this book is kind of about infidelity, and it's kind of about divorce, but it's also not really about those things. So he most frequently lays out a series of events: infidelity, divorce, and remarriage to the person that you cheated with. So it's kind of a very specific mode of infidelity, but also he has a whole section called Loving Toughness in Other Settings that's not about any of these patterns. So it's not about infidelity or divorce. When I said it's unfocused, I mean it. Again, he really thinks he's doing something here. The way that I've thought about this is Dobson is essentially proposing a new theory of therapy, a new style of therapy. He doesn't say it like that, but that's essentially what this is. Tough love as a modality in therapy. Brooke, as you're getting ready to study for your test, let's talk about models of therapy for a second.
Yeah.
All theories of therapy ask the question, what causes pain? They have some model of health that they're trying to help people get to. Right? So, cognitive behavioral therapy, it is assumed that pain is caused by patterns of thinking and beliefs that lead to unwanted behavior. CBT helps people understand the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and help to change these patterns to engage with things that are stressful in a more positive manner. Health here is about symptom relief and moving through unhelpful ideas of the world. My preferred style of therapy, especially couples therapy, is called emotion-focused therapy. Here, pain is caused when we distance ourselves from others because we assume we can't feel safe with them. We can't get our attachment needs met. EFT focuses on process as much as content. So yes, we help people understand what's going on, but change occurs when we have, quote, corrective emotional experiences. When we can be vulnerable with people, even in times of pain, and feel safe and held, that helps heal some old wounds. So these are just different styles of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
In EFT, health is described as the ability to safely experience and express emotions in a relationship. Brooke, what is your go-to model of therapy?
My go-to model of therapy is called client-centered or person-centered therapy. It's Rogerian, and it's based on like client autonomy, client being the expert of their own experience, unconditional positive regard, and I view it as like partnership and collaboration in therapy with my clients. Yeah, it's a type of humanistic therapy. As I'm studying, I am laughing though, because like, you know, they only want to hear about behavioral therapy. That's the only thing that a lot of places want you to do. And people have a misconception that that's like fast and quick and easy and they don't have to do much for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I use other models too. I use a lot of feminist theory. I use a lot of strengths-based approaches, things like that. The question I ask when I meet a person for the first time is like, what is the thing they want to change? Is it their thoughts, their behaviors, their feelings, their relationships? Like, what is the thing that they're wanting to change? And that's sort of how I determine what I'm going to focus through, what lens I'm going to focus through.
And I think that is a really good way of talking about it as well. What lens I'm looking at it through. Mm-hmm. Models of therapy are like the bifocals from the documentary National Treasure that Nicolas Cage steals in order to read the Declaration of Independence, which is a cultural touchstone we all understand. I don't have to explain it.
Not this girl. I never saw that movie.
In the movie, there is a map, a secret map on the back of the Declaration of Independence, and Benjamin Franklin created these funny-looking glasses to help decipher this map. And they have literally different lenses on these that are different colors. So there's like a red one and a blue one and a green one. And to really decode the map, you have to look at it through just the red lens and then the blue lens and the red and blue together, right? When you're looking at it through the red lens, you're seeing things that are there. When you're looking at it through the blue lens, you're seeing things that are there. Neither of them are incorrect. Mm-hmm. Cognitive behavioral therapy is not more correct than humanistic therapy. Mm-hmm. They just do different things. And so sometimes that's about therapeutic style. I am drawn to some more than others, but sometimes, as you were saying, it's about client stuff. If a client comes in really wanting to talk about like behavioral stuff, maybe CBT will be a better fit for them. If they really want to do some like deep insight work, maybe internal family systems or parts work or humanistic therapy, EFT would be a little bit more appropriate here. Here's my understanding of Dobson's love must be tough theory. At first, I want to present it as neutrally as possible. We have a whole section about just tearing it to pieces, but this is my best faith effort to try to understand and present it.
Great.
So there is some underpinnings, some assumptions going in about how the world operates. Primarily, that marriage is ordained by God and the main goal is to keep marriages together. This is not true for many styles of relational therapy, but that is an assumption going into this. There's also a lot of unspoken assumptions about white evangelical Christianity. So, like, of course, it's best for a woman to submit to her husband, stuff like that.
Right.
Also, an assumption that is kind of baked into this. Divorce and remarriage is allowed in certain circumstances. If the other person leaves and they aren't a Christian, if it happened before you were a Christian, or if there is infidelity.
Infidelity.
Mm-hmm. That is... In the Bible, it does say you are allowed to get divorced if there is infidelity.
Okay.
Which we will talk about the applications and shortcomings of that view. But again, just like that evangelical idea of marriage is baked into this. Mm-hmm. Dobson defines health or healthy relationships, quote, as a marvelous blending of personalities when two separate and distinct individuals establish a young family and live together in love and harmony for the next 50 to 60 years. It happens young. It's lifelong. It is blending of personalities. It's not super descriptive. Again, he thinks he's doing something serious here, but it's like, okay. The therapist is a coach, is very directive. And this is designed for just one person in therapy. You don't need a couple. It's actually not meant for seeing both people. Quote, "The book you are holding is dedicated, therefore, to that vulnerable member of the family who can be thought of as a victim in extreme cases. This is the only text of which I am aware whose primary purpose is to help a distressed person strengthen or preserve his or her marriage, even in the absence of a willing spouse. By putting into practice tough love, essentially, you can draw back the other person and get them to recommit to this marriage."
Okay.
Things that he looks for, pursuer-distancer dynamics. We've talked about this before in this podcast. The idea that if you just nag and follow the person, try to get closeness and get them to do marriage therapy with you, they're not going to want to do it. Quote, "Nothing destroys a romantic relationship more than for a person to throw himself, weeping and clinging, on the back of the cool partner to beg for mercy. That infuses the wayward spouse with an even greater desire to escape from the leech that threatens to suck his life's blood."
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't love the parasitic imagery at play. Interestingly, I think Dobson identifies pursuer-distancer dynamics, which again I think are a real thing, but his goal isn't to create a feeling of safety, it's to make that chase more sustainable. Quote, "Adult romantic relationships continue to bear many of the characteristics of adolescent sexuality. We differ from the young only in degree and will always reflect the rudiments of earlier sexual attitudes and values. Thus, grown-ups still want the thrill of the chase, the lure of the unattainable, and the excitement of the new, and the boredom with the old." Wanting to pursue, wanting it to be a chase, is a natural good thing in this view. And, there is new relationship energy is a term Dobson does not use, but is pretty common in working with non-monogamous relationships. That's a real thing. People do enjoy that. That's fine. And maybe it's just my own anxieties, but I love not feeling the need to chase boyfriend. Our relationship feels familiar and comfortable, like my favorite leather jacket, but also it's still exciting, right? Like I think he's buying into this paradigm that I think we can work outside of. Like, again, I'm not super trying to critique it yet, but it's kind of...
I mean, we'll tear it apart later, but for me, the thing is that I think that there's this idea that once that energy goes away, things are terrible, as opposed to that energy wanes, but like a different thing appears that is also exciting and interesting or comforting or whatever else.
Yes.
But he's just sort of saying like, well, that ends and then you're stuck in this marriage.
So keep that chase alive. Play hard to get. That's a good thing to be. He also talks quite a lot about the so-called line of respect. By allowing bad behavior to continue, he calls this appeasement, you lose respect in your partner's eyes. Quote, "Panic often leads to appeasement, which is virtually never successful in seeking to control the behavior of others. In fact, it often leads directly to war, whether between husband and wives or between antagonistic nations. World War II might have been prevented and 50 million lives saved if British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and other national leaders had understood the folly of appeasement in 1936 to 1939. Every time they offered Adolf Hitler another Czechoslovakia to tranquilize his lust for domination, they only fed his disdain for them and their armies."
What is his obsession with Adolf Hitler?
It's not even relevant.
It's not even relevant. It doesn't make any sense. That's so oversimplified.
This goes back to this pursuer-distancer thing, though, that when you feel hurt in a relationship, a lot of people go into this like fawning kind of space where they'll do whatever their partner wants to get them back to stay in this relationship. And that's what he's critiquing. That's what he's calling appeasement. World War II anecdote aside. So we have this pattern kind of established of how Dobson's thinking about things. A relationship starts to fall away. One person starts pursuing. The other person starts distancing. That becomes difficult. In that dynamic, the distancer partner starts losing respect for their partner. What do you do about it? Boundaries and consequences, essentially, is what Dobson says. Quote, "Just as a rebellious preschooler can profit from a well-timed spanking, the psychological consequences of sinful behavior should be experienced by the guilty. There's nothing quite like a dose of reality to awaken the dreamer from his fantasies."
I was just reading in my studies earlier today. I thought about Dobson, about long-term negative psychological effects of spanking.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, it's bad.
Yes.
And I just love here again that he has, nothing to back up any of this, no research, no, just what he thinks.
In some models, I'm thinking specifically Adlerian therapy, they talk about natural consequences, right? If your kid forgets to bring their lunch to school one day, it is okay to let them forego lunch for one day to teach, not to teach them a lesson in this vindictive way, but like, that's what happens sometimes. That's fair. The connection to spanking, I think, is really notable as this like normalization of violence, which we will absolutely talk about later, because I think, as you can assume, this goes to some really bad places.
Yeah. Yeah.
The goals for this model of therapy: reestablish the line of respect, develop healthier boundaries, and stay married. So by asserting, by not chasing, by not pursuing, by reestablishing the line of respect, you can pull the other person back in, get that good pursuer distance or dynamic going, and stay married, which again is ultimately the goal here. I have a Word document to share with you. There's 3 sections. We're going to start by talking about Linda.
All right, Linda's letter.
I will read parts of it, and then we're using this as a case study. So
okay, wait, but where is this from? This is a real letter?
This is from the book. He says it's based on a real letter he's received. So, artistic liberties. Okay. Dear Dr. Dobson, I have a problem, and it's become a terrible burden to me. I married a man who wasn't a Christian. He refused to participate in the family. Things have always been rocky, but a much more serious problem arose a few years ago. Paul, the husband, began to get interested in a beautiful divorcee who worked as his bookkeeper. At first, it seemed innocent, as he helped her in various ways. But I began to notice our relationship was deteriorating. He always wanted this other woman along whenever we went anywhere, and he spent more time at her house. He said that they were just doing accounting work, but I didn't believe it. I began to nag and complain, and it just made him more determined to be with her. Gradually, they fell in love with each other, and I didn't know what to do about it. I bought a book about this time in which the author promised if I obey my sinner husband, God wouldn't allow any wrong to happen so long as I was submissive. Well, in my panic, I thought I would lose him forever, and I agreed to let the other woman into our bedroom with us. I thought it would make Paul love me more, but it just made him fall deeper in love with her. Now he says he's confused and doesn't know which one of us he wants. He doesn't want to lose me either and says he still loves me and our 3 kids, but he can't give her up either. I love Paul so dearly, and I've begged for him to turn our problem over to the Lord. I love the other woman too. I know she is also hurting, but she doesn't believe God will punish the sin. I experienced terrible jealousy and pain, but I've always put the needs of my husband and his friend, above my own. What do I do now, Linda?
I have some ideas for you, Linda.
I do too. Let's start by, what does Dobson say about this case, right? So going back to our love must be tough theory of therapy, Linda's main mistake was letting Paul do all this shit, right? Letting this woman come with them, bringing her into the bedroom. That pursuing, in Dobson's view, eliminated Paul's respect for Linda. Like, oh, I can do whatever I want and you're just going to be here.
Right.
And so what Dobson says Linda should do is essentially say, I can't do this. You have to pick between me or her. I will be at my family's house, whatever. You have to make your decision. Mm-hmm. So, Brooke, what would you say to Linda?
I mean, there's a few different directions I would go. I would want to find out what Linda wanted. Mm-hmm. And why saving the marriage felt so important to her in that very kind of cut and dry way, and find out how she really felt about all of this and what she actually wanted from all of this. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what I would really do. Or the other option is start having threesomes, Linda. Yeah.
I have in the script, Paul has 2 hands. Like,
I don't know. I wasn't going to say that, but then the part where she's like, I love her too. I was like, okay, everybody.
Yeah, I love her too. I was like, do we need to explore bisexuality? Because that's okay too. Non-monogamy, what I tell clients when they're in a relationship trying to open it up for the first time is don't make non-monogamy the baby. Some people have a baby, just save a relationship, and that never works because then you hate each other and now you have a baby.
That's so smart.
It is not the thing that will save your relationship. But sometimes
No.
it can help. Sometimes it's okay. It's a complicated, nuanced thing that you need to like give a lot of attention to.
But really, I think what I would do is explore like why it feels so hard for her to say what she actually wants or how she actually feels about this.
Yeah, nowhere in the letter do we really get a sense of what she wants or how she feels. Like she's talked about experiencing jealousy and she wants to stay with Paul. But that's kind of all that we get.
Yeah.
I think a fundamental thing that you and I kind of a reason that we approach this so differently from Dobson, perhaps obviously, is we don't assume staying together is the correct move. It could be. And there are ways to do that. There are ways to keep it a monogamous relationship, right? I don't think inherently, if Linda were to say, it's me or her, you have to pick, is inherently the wrong thing to do here.
Right.
But I also don't think that's the only option at play.
Right.
Beyond any specific jargon, therapeutic modalities, theories of therapy are stories. We humans need stories and frameworks to make sense of truly an impossible amount of data. And once we start to look for those patterns, we see them everywhere. Confirmation bias, we've talked about this with astrology before. The story Dobson tells in this love must be tough model isn't always inherently a bad thing. We can talk about pursuit distance or dynamics and how much we might agree with that. My main issue with the model as it's written is it's so fucking basic.
Right.
The actual useful parts of this book can be distilled down to when you're the pursuer in a pursuer distance or dynamic, stop pursuing, hold your boundaries, and wait till the other person comes back to you so you can solve a problem together. And yeah, a lot of therapy is much easier said than done. I agree with that in theory, but this is way too limited. I'm sure this advice has helped people. I've expressed similar ideas to people at times in therapy. But Dobson is acting like these ideas are some radically transformative, transgressive, insightful, capital T truths to the human experience. Like, it's not that deep, man.
Yeah, and also just like every case study I've ever read, it's just never that basic.
No. There's always
more complicated.
What did she learn from her family of origin about how relationships should be? What did he learn from his family of origin? What other relationships do they see that feel aspirational? How do their kids fit into this or not, right? We could talk about how this mirrors previous relationships, how it feels to be in this and recognize when they're falling into this dynamic, getting more in touch with their body and grief. Like, I have to imagine Linda's in a deep amount of grief. How is she just processing that beyond what do we do about the relationship?
Right.
Dobson goes way too far in his application for this. For Linda in this situation, again, I don't think this is the most offensive application for this model. I think it's limited, but whatever. He clearly wrote this model for people whose partners have cheated on them. But Dobson is not only vague on who the book is written for, it is explicit about expanding it well past its use to dynamics where it becomes downright abusive. So we talked about loving toughness in other settings. I mentioned that as a chapter. I think this really shows the limits of this model and a lot of Dobson's priors going into it. This chapter opens with a section about how this model can be used to help the wife of a violent spouse, which is a weird time to make it gender neutral.
Yeah.
We have a second letter in the same document from Laura. Editing Jake. This is one of those sections I talked about earlier that directly talks about intimate partner violence. So if you want to skip this letter, you can go to 35 minutes and 50 seconds. And if you just want to skip this discussion entirely, you can go to 52 minutes and 30 seconds. If you are staying around, though, Brooke's cat starts purring in the middle of the section, which honestly is like a nice ASMR moment in the middle of all this bleak sadness. Quote, "Dear Dr. Dobson, this is an extremely difficult letter to write, but I must have help. My husband and I have been married for 12 years, and throughout most of this time, he's had a secret problem. Only I know that he has a very violent temper, and that is absolutely terrifying to me. He is a leader in our church and is a very prominent lawyer in our city. Everyone respects him highly, but when he's at home, he's a different person. At least once or twice a month, he explodes over something the kids or I have done to irritate him, and he becomes furious. He yells, throws things, threatens me, and makes an awful scene if I say the wrong thing, or if I say anything, he beats me with his fists. Last week, he loosened 3 of my teeth and cut the inside of my lip. I really thought he was going to kill me. This happened because I failed to do some errands he asked me to get done. What bothers me is that the beatings are becoming more frequent and more violent as time goes by. After each fight is over, my husband refuses to take any blame for what happened. He steadfastly insists that I'm at fault for deliberately provoking him. He interprets everything as a personal insult. The only way I can keep him calm is to do everything he asks and to hold inside every thought that might make him angry. I don't know what to do. I really do love my husband. He's a fine man when he isn't mad about something. He never shows this side of himself in public, even when he's frustrated. No one has any idea that he is a wife abuser. I haven't told anyone, and my husband would blow straight up if I asked him to go with me to counseling. No telling what to do if he knew I was consulting you. So what can I do? I don't believe in divorce. I'm trying to be gentle and cautious at all times, but I inevitably step on his toes and he explodes again. I'm so tired of being beaten and then having to stay home for a day to hide my bruises. How do I help this situation?
Yowza.
What? Okay. Unrelated. Hearing purr is delightful.
I'm sorry. Is it too loud?
No. If it was a problem, I'll let you know. I love it.
She really liked your voice.
Thank you. What a very intense thing to put into a book like this.
Yes.
What do you think Dobson thinks the problems are here? Or what do you think Dobson suggests that she does about it?
I mean, I don't even know. I'm sure it's going to be something I hate. My concern with what he has to say about it is that as a therapist, if this client showed up in my office saying all of this, the immediate thing I would do before doing any therapy is like assess for safety and get
safety plan.
Safety plan, right? Like we can talk about divorce, we can talk about staying, we can talk about all of the stuff you feel, but let's make sure you are like safe right now.
Yes.
You know? And so it's like my clinical brain doesn't even think about any of the information in this except how to get her to immediate safety.
Yeah. Intimate partner violence is a very loaded and complex subject that I have a lot of training in that is too nuanced for an hour-long podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But the things, the specifics of this case, the frequency of it, the intensity of it, the escalation of it, like...
There's kids involved.
She doesn't talk about how he is around the kids, but like the stakes are so high here. Safety planning is the first and foremost priority. I absolutely agree. Here's what Dobson says, quote, "In essence, Laura is being emotionally blackmailed by her husband. He's saying by his behavior, 'Do what I wish or I'll beat you.'" Pause. It also sounds like he's saying that pretty explicitly, but sure. Mm-hmm. "She must break out of that tyranny while she's still young enough to cope with the consequences. This might be accomplished by forcing the matter to crisis. I would suggest that Laura choose the most absurd demand her husband makes, then refuse to consent to it. Let him rage if he must rage.
What?
She should prearrange a place to go and ask friends or relatives to step in for assistance at that critical moment. Separate living quarters may be necessary until her husband settles down. I'd recommend that she not return until there is reason to believe that he is willing to change. If that takes a year, so be it. When and if her husband acknowledges that he has a severe problem and promises to deal with it if she'll come home, a period of negotiation should follow. One of the conditions for reconciliation is a competent Christian counselor for the psychological problems that is now apparent to everyone but the husband. I can offer no guarantees that this advice will resolve Laura's problem with her violent husband, but I believe it represents the best possibility for success. Let me ask those of you who disagree.
Brenda.
What would you advise? He's a lot of things. I want to start at the end. He's like, oh, well, you think I'm so dumb? What would you do instead, bitch? It's like, okay, First of all, intentionally provoking the husband's anger is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
That is, do not do that.
The last time he hurt her, she said she thought he was going to kill her.
Got teeth knocked loose and thought I was going to kill her. Yes.
We don't know if he has a weapon. We don't know. Like, this is clearly escalating every time.
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst idea I've ever heard.
That's horrible advice. It's somewhat tempered by him saying, leave. He's in favor of separation, quote, when necessary, which I also think is a big caveat. But okay, yeah, live apart. It's divorce, it's not an option to Dobson. And I think his issue, like the difference between separation and divorce to him, is that divorce will lead to remarriage. And that's what's
Mhm.
bad. So if you like just live apart forever, but don't technically get divorced, that's fine. Which is a weird, like, at that point, it's a distinction that a difference to me, what
Mhm.
divorce is or not. What I would suggest for this person, make a safety plan and get out. You don't have to provoke his anger. You don't have to tell him. You might say, you have a serious problem. I'm scared for myself and the well-being of our kids. If this was a friend, I would say, girl, leave him. As a therapist, it is not my role to say, but I would say, let's talk about really strong boundaries for you to get back. Again, the story he's telling is not inherently incorrect.
Mhm.
There are some places that I agree, but I think the application here is wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, and like, who is your support system? Do you have your own money? Do
Yes, the
you have
financial piece.
yeah, like, what's the deal with your kids? Like, there's a lot of safety planning that has to go into this, but yeah, this idea of provoking him is wild. Also, and I'm sure you're about to get to it, but this idea of then like letting him be like, sorry, it'll never happen again, and going back, like, that's how IPV works.
That's the cycle of abuse.
That's the cycle of abuse. That does nothing has changed at that point. He's not saying wait until you see active change,
Yes.
or even the spouse coming in saying like, let's go to therapy, like, which would be part of change. But like, just, oh, this is a mess.
As a general rule, as a couples therapist, I ethically cannot see a couple where active intimate partner violence is happening.
Mhm.
Because God forbid they say something difficult in therapy and then that becomes a pretext for abuse. Absolutely not. If it has happened in the past, we can talk about it and negotiate like themes of safety. But that nuance is missing from what Dobson
Yeah,
is saying.
I can't see active abuse clients either, because part of seeing couples is being unbiased between the two people or three people or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't be unbiased if I need to get someone to safety like that,
Hmm.
right? So,
Nor
yeah,
should you be.
right, right.
Not only is this specific example bad, Dobson, in this section of the book specifically, consistently downplays abuse. Quote, endless stories could be told of how God honored the perseverance of abused and ignored partners as they refused to give up. And there's something much worse than living with a mate in disharmony. It's living with God in disobedience.
What?
Both of these, I think, are just like, well, like, yeah, sometimes abuse happens, but if you stick with it, God will honor you, and honestly, that's better. So you get a couple bruises. Like, it's this really intense downplaying of a really intense experience, a really like awful, traumatic, violent experience that rhetorically and in the treatment planning that he gives out, like, is so downplayed. This, I think, is probably without a doubt the most offensive to me book that I've read of Dobson. Like, there's a section later on about gay stuff that we're going to use for hee hee ha ha. There's nothing funny to. I can't make jokes about this. This is just horrible.
No,
And if
yeah.
he was still a practicing therapist at this point, his license should absolutely have been revoked. He was doing Christian counseling, which whatever. As if this episode didn't need a trigger warning enough, this next bit, I think, is just brace yourselves for this, readers. Editing Jake here one more time. If you want to skip this part, you can skip to 52 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. Quote, let me offer another word of caution, which is likely to be misunderstood by those who want to misunderstand. Which is a great way to start a section. I have seen marital relationships where the woman deliberately baited her husband until he hit her. This is not true in most cases of domestic violence, but it does occur. Why, one may ask, would anyone want to be hit? Once he has lost control and lashed out at his tormentor, she then sports undeniable evidence of his cruelty. she can embarrass him at his work or in the church. In short, by taking a beating, she instantly achieves a moral advantage in the eyes of neighbors, friends, and the law. It may even help her to justify divorce, if one comes, to gain custody of her children. Remember what happened when the Japanese sneak attack on Pearl Harbor did to the American morale and unity?
I'm signing off. I can't. Is he saying sometimes women ask for it?
Yes.
Even though he just gave the advice to go home and bait her husband into a rage?
Yes.
Okay.
He gives an example. I happen to know that her non-communicative husband had been verbally antagonized by his wife until he gave her the prize that she sought, a black eye. Then she brought it to church to show it off. It does happen.
No, it does not.
I've read the book and watched the movie Gone Girl.
Yeah.
This is very Gone Girl-esque vibes to me. Brooke, have you familiar with this piece of media?
I watched the movie Gone Girl once on a date. Not a great date movie.
On a date? Oh my god.
Yeah. This guy kept trying to hold hands with me during Gone Girl, and I was like, this is not gonna happen.
Oh my god. That's wild.
I know, it was really wild. I was like, oh, that's not romantic.
In short, the essence of Gone Girl is a guy is framed to be this abusive, awful person by his wife, who is really this like mastermind and spent years plotting his demise. And like, I can hold in my heart the possibility that sometimes a version of this happens. Sure. Whatever. Abusive relationships are toxic pits where things are complicated. It's never okay to hit somebody like that. Never. Period. Right? If you can be provoked into hitting somebody, you still have anger issues, dude. Yeah. You always have the agency to not hit your wife, actually. You are still accountable for hitting your wife, actually. It doesn't matter how antagonistic someone is with their words. If you hit them, you're liable for hitting them.
Yeah, and this just opens up a can of worms, too, because then who gets to decide?
Yes.
Right? Like, if it was warranted or not. Like, this is nuts. You never get to hit anybody.
I bet Laura's husband, the letter that we read a little bit earlier, would absolutely say, well, she was baiting me. She knew if she didn't buy these groceries that I would have this happen.
Yeah.
In any given situation, I think it can be nuanced and complicated, but blur your eyes just a little bit. He's creating a culture where abuse is normalized, violence is normalized, and like maybe she deserved it. Like it becomes so much more acceptable in this culture that Dobson is creating. He started by saying this could be misunderstood by people who want to misunderstand it. I'm not wanting to misunderstand. Part of the reason that I go out of my way to offer the best faith explanation of Dobson's bullshit so frequently is I believe on the merits of what he's saying, these things are disqualifying in and of themselves. I don't need to editorialize about how bullshit and bigoted he is for his work to be awful in and of itself. And the best reading of these things is awful, is abusive, he is a monster for saying these things.
Right. This is nuts.
We're still in chapter, all of this is in one chapter. Oh. The next part of the same chapter is for the husband or wife of a child abuser. And what you do is essentially you tell your spouse, don't do that.
What?
He doesn't actually say what love must be tough as like the application that would look like here. Like I reread the section a number of times. The totality of what he says, quote, mothers and fathers, this is going on in your home. You simply must come to the rescue of the child. Okay. Doesn't say how. I urge you to seek professional help today. Doesn't really say what that means. And if all else fails, get the child out of the home in which it is occurring. That is loving toughness under fire. How does that apply to love must be tough? Also, don't wait, quote, until all else fails. If there is abuse happening to kids, physical, or he talks about sexual violence, get them out ASAP.
Like, immediately, before doing anything else, get them out of the house.
That is step one.
I mean, it is so obvious that I'm just bewildered by any other advice you would give. I mean, if someone came to me and said there is my spouse is abusing my kid actively, right? Like, we're mandated reporters. We have
to call that shit in.
But I would walk them through it, right? And I would be like, okay, here's what we're going to do, but this is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, that doesn't go for like historical abuse. That just goes for when there's like active abuse. I think sometimes people feel afraid to talk about things that happened when they were kids or something. But I mean, there is no way I would feel comfortable advising anything that involved the kids staying in the home with the abuser.
No. Never.
Never. And the way you can protect your kids is to make them understand through your actions that you are on their side by removing them from the house immediately and keeping them safe.
He says, come to the rescue of the child. He doesn't say how. How you do that is getting them the fuck out of there, is getting them in therapy.
What other way is there?
Right. The bulk of this section, he spends 5 pages telling the story of a guy who was abused as a kid and then abused his own kids but felt really bad about it. That's the majority of the section. And so he talks about like the intergenerational cycles of abuse, which are real, but he doesn't like talk about how to interrupt that. He like sides with the guy in a way, like we can have empathy. These things are complicated, sure. But like, again, you have agency. If you hit your spouse, if you hit your kids, you are still the one doing that. You don't get a pass just because your parents also hit you. That's bad. I feel really bad for you, but like the kids still need to be taken the fuck out of the house then. Editing Jake, once more, Dobson spends 6 pages telling this sympathetic story and not even 2 pages with his half-assed so-called advice on what to do about it. And I think that says just as much as the actual words that he writes. What a monster! What a bad person! Oh, I hate this fucker so much.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, like, not a surprise, right? Like, in most cases of abuse, you'll find that there was other abuse, at a different point in life. But not everyone who is abused becomes an abuser.
Correct.
And so, I mean, that's, like, the therapy work that you can do with an abuser if you're that person's therapist down the road. But when we're talking about in the moment, like that's so weird.
I've worked with people who've perpetrated types of intimate partner violence or whatever. And it's difficult work. It's complicated work. I have a lot of empathy for those people. And also in those situations, the priority for safety are the people who are being abused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also in this section, because these are equally equivalent things, one section is dedicated to the husband, quote, of a new woman, meaning a feminist.
A feminist is called a new woman.
Yeah. So get ready for a vibe shift as we go back to making hee-ha-ha-ha jokes. Quote, despite many concerns I've expressed in the past, feminism definitely has its positive elements. There's no doubt in my mind that the movement has brought greater respect and dignities for females, especially in the business world. But there have been casualties too, especially when the philosophy of radical feminism is adopted uncritically by former traditionalists.
What?
So he said kind of a nice thing about feminism. Like it helped in business.
Even though we're not supposed to have jobs, according to him.
You're allowed to have jobs, but a primary job should be mother.
Yeah, mother is the job. Mother.
Mother hunger. That's like the nice part about feminism. The rest of it is not. He says this is what happens when a woman becomes a feminist or becomes, quote unquote, a new woman. Her new attitude can be best described as deeply angry. She is tired of being abused and taken for granted and disrespected.
Yeah.
From now on, you better believe she is not going to be pushed around by anyone.
Yes, correct.
Her new system of values have been programmed for her by feminist organizations and publications, almost as though a computer software package were key punched into her brain.
This from the guy who runs Focus on the Family.
Right!
Like...
Pot, kettle.
This is like all programming. We've just done months and months of like getting to children early so that they can be programmed early.
Yes. From that day forward, her primary concern is herself. The children will make it fine, she feels, with far less mothering. Her own career becomes all-consuming. If it conflicts with her husband's work, then he'll just have to compromise. She bristles when her new beliefs are challenged or contradicted. These very words I'm writing, in fact, would make her furious. Her attitude towards God is likely to be revised too. If he's not an anti-feminist, then, in her opinion, most of his people are. She may throw everything overboard she believed in before her rebirth as a new woman.
Okay. When people try, it's like arguing with a wall. So
Truly.
What can I really say? But like, when people think feminism is just about like wanting to have a job, right? Mm-hmm. It's a way to not have to say what it's really about, which is like wanting to be treated like a human being, right? And if he had to use that language, I wonder what he would say. It's like nobody wants to have a job so bad that they don't want to pay attention to their kids. Like that is not what it is. They want to have equal rights and be treated like a person, and they want that for their children and their friends and their families. It's so wild. And yeah, they're mad. Like, of course we're mad. If you are in a position like he is, where you've never been oppressed and you have nothing to be mad over, I guess you couldn't possibly understand that being any other identity or combination of identities, of course you're mad when the world is built for one singular person.
The tone policing is weaponized often by people of privilege to dismiss those with less so, because it's like, well, yeah, Dobson said some horrible things about homosexuals, but hating him, that's a little bit intense. Like, we don't have to go there. That's a piece of feedback the show gets quite a bit from evangelicals of like, well, you don't need to hate the guy. It's like, well, one, no, fuck him. And two, like, I'm allowed to be really mad based on some of the horrible things that he said, just because he said them with a little southern twang and a smile on his face.
Yeah, that's what made it even more dangerous. Once again, I'd like to ask you, are evangelicals... Oh, by the way, in our last podcast, I listened to it and I realized I was saying evangelists the whole time. My bad. Are evangelicals listening to this podcast?
I don't think they're listening. I think they see the name and write it off and leave an angry comment that I then laugh about.
All right.
It's also in the description of like when a woman becomes a feminist. It's interesting. Obviously, it's a caricature. It's a straw man. But it's also interesting how much like bits of reality seep into that. Like, her own career becomes all-consuming. That's whatever. If it conflicts with her husband's work, he'll just have to compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a good thing that like both of their careers get taken equally.
But the alternative is she has to compromise.
Exactly, and that is okay.
Here. Yeah, like this works in both directions, right? So yeah, if her job is really all-encompassing, he might have to compromise, but she might have to compromise for him. And historically, as we know, that has been more what's happened. Mm-hmm. Or they can both compromise and come up with a different plan so they can both be happy. But this is so dumb.
Yes. The presumption of the man it works and his job is more important, I think, is pervasive in this.
Yes, that's what it is.
The part about like it's programmed into her. Something that I really strongly object to when people talk about evangelicals, especially adults. Kids, it's different, but with adults especially, it's like, well, they're just brainwashed. Like, high control environments do definitely impact your thinking. But adults are adults, and they have their own free will. They are not tricked into these beliefs. It's also why you can't just, like, facts and logic your way out of like helping people out of those things. They made the choice to buy into these things. And if they are going to leave, it's going to take their own efforts to deconstruct it. Your wife becomes a feminist. What does Dobson say you do about it? Hear them out. Give them space. Write it out till she calms down. He describes it as very adolescent.
It's like hysteria.
Truly. Yes, he doesn't use that word, but I have hysteria written down in the script.
Yeah. Wait till she calms down. Get her a nice piece of jewelry.
She'll want to be a mother again. It's fine.
Take her out for a steak and knock her up.
Oh, something, I don't have this actually written in the script, but as I've been reflecting on this, something that there's not room for is like what happens if a woman actually has kids and doesn't want to be a mom, whether it be because of postpartum depression or she feels pressured into it and like just doesn't, not that she hates the kid, but like just isn't really, that's not her experience. That's a thing that happens, and that's an okay thing to experience, but there's just not any room for that experience in Dobson's worldview of like,
No, and there's so much room for it with men, right? Because I think that that probably does happen to men,
mhm.
and they disappear into their jobs or they go do other things, and it's a little more socially acceptable, right? They have a way to manage that and mitigate some of that women
Yeah.
don't necessarily have.
So part 3 of the script, this is for me, there's some angering parts, but this is the light part of the script, which is always
Oh,
a,
good.
we're still in this chapter 13, the loving toughness and other settings chapter, because this chapter is just wild. Also, the rest of the book is kind of bullshit and nothing. The next section of chapter 13 is advice to the wife of a homosexual.
Oh, God.
It opens with a fictitious letter to Dobson from the wife of a gay man who works as a dancer in Vegas.
No. I'm sorry I'm laughing. I'm just like, this is such a Dobson example.
It's such a Dobson example. Like, I especially in like I know a lot of older gay men who were married to women and they're
Yeah.
just in the closet for a while or whatever. Like that was the thing, especially before there's more of an embrace socially of queerness. I don't think I knew anyone who like, he says dancer. He's talking about like he's a gay stripper who just happens to be married to a like. I'm sure that happened, but like just taking it to a 12 when it's like a
Well,
4.
it's also like he can't have an example of a homosexual man who has just like a regular job at a business, right? Because he can't normalize that man, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Relatedly, in this letter, this is the woman writing, but Dobson doesn't push back on this quote. A counselor told me that homosexuals are very self-centered people who think mainly of themselves. Even in their sexual activities, their main purpose is to please themselves. And now we're getting to some like fucked up Freudian, like, oh, you just want to fuck men because you're really attracted to yourself, and it's this like super narcissistic form of sexuality that like, it's
No.
just so gross. Whatever. This guy has been cheating on his wife with men, so that's infidelity. So Dobson says there are then ground for divorce.
Okay.
He does say, quote, if he wants to preserve his relationship with you, then he'll need competent counseling to cope with this problem. And contrary to what you've heard, homosexuality can be treated successfully when the individual desperately wants to change. This next part I think is really interesting because we've talked about him saying like treatment for gay stuff is possible, which it isn't. Being gay is not an illness, it's just a different way of being. But here's what he says the treatment is. The majority of gays can become comfortable and reasonably satisfied in an exclusively heterosexual world. Even in his own model, it's not, the treatment for being gay isn't to make you straight. It's to
Right.
mask enough, essentially, to not ruffle any feathers.
You can just be like comfortable enough.
Yeah, enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be like, don't want to kill yourself enough day to day, so it's fine.
Wow.
There's some love the sinner, hate the sin. Like, literally, he says that at one point. As wild as these parts are, that's actually pretty standard to Dobson bigotry.
Yeah.
He was besties with the founder of modern conversion therapy, so none of this is surprising.
Right. We've been here before.
The last section of this letter, no. The last section of this section, no. I had to write that. Shit gets wild next, is what I'm trying to say. I've thought about, like, do I summarize this? How do I want to do this? I want to read you just 2 pages explicitly from this book.
Yeah.
Brooke, I have it in this document.
Okay.
It gets like pretty explicit. Like this is basically Dobson's gay erotica. So if you don't feel comfortable reading, that is totally okay. But in my mind, we take turns reading paragraphs of this
Yeah,
together.
we're gonna read it. Yeah. Okay.
From Dobson's mouth.
From Dobson's mouth, from his creepy little mouth. A friend asked me to describe the gay lifestyle for those who are not informed. Oh no, Jane. Reluctantly, I agreed to do so. If you have a weak stomach or don't wish to know the more unpleasant facts about homosexuality, I encourage you to skip the remainder of this section.
And we are not skipping the remainder of the section.
Why does Dobson... How does he explain knowing all of this?
He was on the porn council for Reagan, so he had to watch a lot of
Oh, right.
porn.
Yeah, I forgot.
Gay propaganda would have us see homosexuality as just another lifestyle, being very similar to that of heterosexuals. They picture two young men or women holding hands and strolling serenely through a park as though their perversions were merely another expression of human love. Unfortunately, the actual gay experience is another matter. It can be incredibly sordid and perverse in its most extreme context.
Whereas heterosexuals typically engage each other one-on-one, many homosexuals, but not all, prefer a group experience. Their orgies occur in gay baths, quote, gay baths, among other places, made legal by anti-sodomy laws struck down in the courts in recent years. The success of these businesses has been severely affected by the AIDS phenomenon, but they are still in operation at the date of this writing. Hell yeah, Manhole. Oh, not Manhole. What is it? Steamworks?
Steamworks. Quote, if you were to follow a gay man into such an establishment, this is what you would typically observe. And here in the editing is where I'm going to put in royalty-free, like, sexy music.
Yeah.
For the next hour and a half, that individual would have oral anal contact with 10 to 30 partners, ingesting small amounts of fecal matter from each one. He would then have oral genital sex with 5 to 10 more, and he would be penetrated orally by 5 to 10 men, and would be the object of oral genital contact by the same number. These men would all swallow fecal matter from one another, passed around from anus to genitalia to mouth to anus, etc. This is not some exaggeration or overstatement. According to the second Kinsey survey conducted in San Francisco, 83% of homosexuals report that they practice oral anal sex. The Gay Report, written for and by homosexuals, places the incidence at 89%. Likewise, 23% admit that they routinely urinate on one another during their sexual encounters. That is the gay experience when expressed at its worst. The accuracy of this description was reviewed and verified by my friend Dr. Donald Tweedle, a Christian psychotherapist who specialized for over 25 years in the treatment of homosexual patients. This very groovy song, which does not deserve to be associated with James Dobson's bad erotica, is called Get That Thing by Abby Noyes, and I quite enjoy it.
Okay, first of all, I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this in the same week that the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives revealed what Fruity Pebbles is, which is that one Mormon wife peeing into her husband's mouth. So why he thinks this is limited to homosexuals. Also, I've never been to a bathhouse, which is what he's talking about, but I have known lots of people who have, and I don't know that it's 30 partners a night.
We'll talk about the numbers. I have thoughts about all of this. There's still more quotes to go. We're not done with the section yet.
Okay, but don't cut out that part about the Mormon wives.
Absolutely not.
Homosexual encounters with multiple partners are common. Orgies. Even for those who reject the orgiastic activities I have described.
Is it any wonder that so many homosexuals have hepatitis and other diseases? It certainly appears to explain the recent discovery of the incurable illness called AIDS, mentioned earlier, which is spreading unchecked through the gay community. These developments carry ominous implications for the health of the nation, since homosexuals can be found in every profession and occupation. They drill our teeth, they perform surgeries, serve our food, teach our children, provide their blood for our hospitals. Any major health hazard affecting up to 2% of the population must be considered relevant to the totality. Yet, your government is busy banning cyclamates and saccharin and ignoring the more obvious dangers that are politically volatile.
Does he think straight people don't eat ass?
That's what I'm saying! We'll get to it.
To the churches that have whitewashed the gay experience and absolved it of divine sanction, I can only say, I'm glad I won't be the one to explain that stance on Judgment Day. Dun dun dun. Wow.
Woo!
Well, first of all, Donald Tweedle hangs out in bathhouses. Second of all, you can't, when it comes to citing sources, it can't be my friend Donald Tweedle.
He's not a credible source.
It has to be a real person. And that's just the most bananas thing I've ever read in my life. Like, yeah, there's bathhouses and people go in them and have sex. There's also like brothels that people go into and have sex.
There sure are.
Like men and women have sex. Like what? Yeah, because it's all just people. There are loving people in relationships walking down the street holding hands who care about each other and also probably eat each other's asses later.
Yeah,
and
these things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. There's like this exists in all populations. So I'm very confused.
His fascination with shit is really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's meant to prey on people's feelings of disgust. All bodies are kind of gross. Sex is kind of gross.
Mm-hmm. Gay
men can wash their butts. Right? Like, if you were that worried about hygiene, there are things to be done to... If you're going to eat ass, you can douche first, right? Like, there's things to be done here. But he mentions eating shit multiple times. Clearly, he's fixated on it. And this is only about gay men. He says nothing about lesbian sex. Though I'm sure he would find some other justification for his disgust. Second, especially at the start of the AIDS epidemic, stigma against any gay person was huge.
Yeah.
That list of jobs he gives, dentist, surgeon, food prep, etc. Queer people were often harassed about infecting straight people with AIDS. Even, like, not knowing if they are HIV positive or not, just, you're a little bit flamboyant, therefore you're going to give me AIDS by touching my food. That's a thing that happened a lot.
Yeah, this is the early 80s, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this book came out in 83. This reprint's 1996.
Mm-hmm.
AIDS was so associated with being gay, there's so much misinformation about how it spread, which is why it was a huge deal when Princess Diana shook hands and hugged AIDS patients without gloves in the 80s, specifically in 1987 in London and 1989 in New York. Because people, without scientific backing, literally thought if a gay person touches you, you're going to get AIDS.
I remember that. I mean, I remember people thinking that, but I also remember Diana and those pictures being everywhere and just the controversy. Even among my two homes.
Dobson is, in many ways, the spiritual opposite of Princess Diana. Fame and power hungry, super bigoted, and died tragically old.
That was really good. That was a creeper.
Thank you.
And instead of a revenge dress, he has a brown sweater vest.
I am officially putting Princess Diana on the I Hate James Dobson Patron Saints catalog, along with Jocelyn Elders, who, when he talked about her in our Purity Culture series, I said that she died. She's alive. She did not die.
Really?
Yeah, she's just around. We still love her. She's still part of the saints. We can canonize people before they die. We are not the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Are you keeping an official list?
I am.
Good. You know who's not going on that list? Donald Tweedle.
Donald Tweedle, yeah.
Sometimes I think you're just making these names up. And
sometimes I think he's making these names up.
I liked it when he said it like an absolute 5-year-old. He's like, and I know it's true. You know why?
It was
my
verified.
Friend told me.
And he heard it from his friend, and she was there. His invocation of Judgment Day is really loud to me. He mentions it only one other time in this book, and it's about people who leave their spouses and say, God wanted me to marry this other person. Quote, that is the ultimate rationalization. It makes blatant sin sound sanctified, but only for a time. A day of accountability is coming. It's just a little twist of the nip there at the end. It's him getting off to the idea that people he dislikes will suffer. Because again, suffering for Dobson And for evangelicals in this culture, the suffering of their enemies is the point.
Mm-hmm.
It is hatred looking for justification. It's disgust looking for justification. He just thinks gay people are gross, and he'd be like, it's because they munch butts. As if, as you said earlier, straight people don't also eat ass.
Right. Or like kiss each other after oral sex or do anything. I mean,
Right.
you said it, like sex is gross, no matter
Yeah.
who's having it. So we all just sort of know that and get over it.
And lust and disgust in the brain are really closely linked. There are a lot of people who do things sexually, gay or not, because like, that's kind of gross and I'm into it. A lot of people who are into piss are like, yeah, objectively pee is kind of gross, but it like makes me feel funny, and so I guess I'm going to do it in sex. That's fine. Or there are ways to do it to reduce harm, right? Whatever, we can normalize it. Equally important, those numbers he lists for bathhouses. In 90 minutes, if you eat the ass of 30 guys, suck 10 dicks, be orally penetrated, which is different, I think he means anally penetrated, by 10 more, and get your dick sucked by 10 more guys, you're having sex with 60 people in 90 minutes?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of my friends who are gay who have been to bathhouses about these numbers, and all of them said, that sounds like a person who's just trying to brag.
I mean, 90 minutes isn't that long of time.
No! Also, bathhouses, or a bath home, if they're filled with love, are, for so long, being gay was so illegal. It feels, I was not around at the time, largely, but given the prevalence of acceptance of queer stuff now, it can be kind of hard to impress upon people how secretive you had to be for being gay until super, super recently. And so a lot of gay life happened in dark spaces, sometimes literally, but just generally like bars or bathhouses. This is a place out of the way where you can go, you make limited eye contact. If you see someone there, no, you didn't. And that's how you get your gay stuff out of the way so you can go and not be harassed out on the street.
Right.
It's a cultural thing that they forced upon gay people. He said, you're not allowed to exist in society. People are gay. People have been gay forever, so they're going to find a way to exist. It's just going to be in these dark places.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I feel the need to defend bathhouses so much, but some people just go to bathhouses because they're a fun place to be. Steamworks, the bathhouse in Chicago you named, I know people who go there just for the sauna.
Yeah. Also, are there even ever 60 people in there at a time?
That too.
Like, that's a lot of people in there.
And even if we buy into the premise that some gay men are straight up motherfucking dick pigs, they can do so and still take care of their health. They can be competent doctors or surgeons or food prep specialists. People are complex and contain multitudes. For instance, Dobson isn't defined solely by the mouth-to-breast sex that he's having. Only to me, because James Dobson is a certified tits guy.
I do not feel any fear or anything about what's going on there as much as I do about what's going on behind closed doors with a lot of straight men.
Yes. There's still a stigma around people who are HIV positive, even in the gay community. Most people who are HIV positive actually have a really good sense of their health. They are taking medication every day, and if you take HIV medication appropriately, you have so limited HIV in your system, you're undetectable, which means you cannot transmit the virus to anyone else. It is possible that in our lifetime, we will see the eradication of HIV because of these medicines. There's misunderstandings around HIV. The stigma is still real. I have loved ones who have HIV and who have struggled really intensely to process what that means for them. And there's a lot of reasons. I have a lot of empathy for them. They shouldn't have to. Like, it's a difficult thing. I don't want to downplay it, but also it's like you can live a long, healthy life with it. Now it is just a medical condition.
Yeah. In the early 80s, I remember, or mid 80s, I remember there was so much panic about it because it was brand new. The same way there was a lot of panic about COVID when it first hit, right?
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what it was. We didn't know where it came from or how you could get it or what it meant if you got it. And to some extent, I understand that fear, right, of the unknown when it comes to diseases, but instead of doing anything about it, it was politicized like COVID eventually was.
And that's the other thing about how he writes about it. He says your government's not doing anything. Dobson was part of the Reagan administration. He served on multiple boards, and what Reagan did was ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hated queer people, or his administration hated queer people. There's a clip, a really famous clip of one of his press secretaries being asked about AIDS and laughing it off. Right? And Dobson, that's the response. Well, technically Dobson wants gay stuff to be outlawed, but like that's the response Dobson wanted in the 90s when he writes this. He's just mad because Bill Clinton's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
This is now the third episode in a row where there's been an out of the blue attack on queer people. Like, I know that is such a thematic through line in evangelical Christianity, but I want to pause for a moment. I didn't write these as gay episodes. I didn't pick these subjects out to be like, how do they hate queer people? The subject matter has very little to do with them. Dare to share, I didn't think I was going to deal with gay shit. Love Must Be Tough, this came out of the blue for me. I am not trying to cherry pick this. Homophobia was, and largely still is, the fucking lifeblood of American evangelicalism. The evils of feminism and the excesses of modernity get distorted and projected onto an easy and vulnerable target. I think the main difference now is we're seeing that projected onto trans people a little bit more because they're a little bit more visible. Gay people are still suffering that. Trans people especially are still suffering that. And to quote the best philosopher of our time, Wicked, the best way to bring people together is to give them a real good enemy. Part 4, random odds and ends. A lot of this book is just recycled garbage. When I said it was unfocused, like, I think I have interesting things to say about this book, but by and large, it's such a bullshit nothing book. So much of it is recycled garbage. Tell me if these sound familiar. He tells the story of a guy who writes multiple letters to a woman every day, and she married the postman. A guy harassed a woman with unwanted gifts. The issue is that he was seeming weak. Quote, very women are attracted to sniveling men who crawl, who bribe, who whine, and who make donkeys of themselves in the whole world. Tell me, who wants to marry an unambitious weirdo who grovels in the dirt like a whipped puppy? Or the story of a woman who was pursuing her husband, but then gave her husband space and he proceeded to jump her bones. Like, these are all folksy stories without any real backing that Dobson just tells over and over and over again. He was writing this, 13 years after Dare to Discipline is when this book came out, and he's recycling stories over and over and over again. Quote, there's an old-fashioned notion, perhaps, that it is true that men do not respect easy women, and who often become bored with those who held nothing in reserve. Likewise, women often disrespect men who only have one thing on their minds. So, good old-fashioned slut-shaming. There's a resurgence of the 12 steps for intimacy, that eye to body, eye to eye, mouth to breast stuff. He goes through that in detail again. It's just a bunch of nonsense in this book. In the preface to this book, the writer, not Dobson, credits Jimmy Boy with coining the term tough love.
What?
I looked into this. It is impossible to know who coined terms, and I'm sure people have talked about tough and love in the same sentence. Those two words make sense together. The internet says the term was coined by a guy named Bill Milliken, who named his book Tough Love, and who described it as, quote, I don't care how this makes you feel toward me. You may hate my guts, but I love you, and I'm doing this because I love you. And it was meant to help the parents of troubled teens. We have talked about the troubled teen industry in the past, including one organization called Tough Love, which Dobson endorsed. Milliken's book came out in 1968. This book was published in 1983. And so it's not absurd to link Dobson to the popularization of the phrase tough love. Even though, in this book, he never once says tough love. He always says love must be tough, which is rearranged, and like, for a man who tries so hard to brand things, he's not very good at it.
No.
At the very least, he wants credit for it. So, James Dobson, I'll give it to you. You were the creator of the idea of tough love, which was used to keep people in abusive relationships, tear families apart, and create relationships built on mistrust and resentment. I hope you're proud. And unfortunately, I know he would be.
Yeah, he would.
Part 5, the ending. Again, this book is the epitome of, wow, you really thought you did something here, huh? There's a reason marriage and family therapists learn about Salvador Minuchin's structural family therapy or Virginia Satir's experiential family therapy. They are both actual psychological professionals who developed, cultivated, and refined models of therapy and humanity that have deep practical insights. And there's a reason that Dobson's ideas are not even a whiff of an idea in any MFT curriculum. He is so high in his own farts that it is not applicable or helpful really to anyone. It's wild to me that not that long into Dobson's career, he was already this unhinged. Not just misunderstanding science. I'm talking full-blown religious fanatic who only uses the language and professionalism of psychology. At least with Dare to Discipline, Kachow,
No.
he misrepresented actual science. There's actual science at hand, he just did it wrong. Here, he's just pulling shit from his butt and calling it gold.
Like so many bathhouses.
Like so many bathhouses. I have heard from listeners that this book kept them or loved ones in abusive relationships. If this book or ideas did help you or families, great. I'm happy for you. But you could get these ideas, even at the time, from sources that wouldn't tell you that maybe it was your fault that your husband hit you. I think the enduring legacy of Dobson is spanking, homophobia, and keeping people in abusive relationships. And this book is a pillar in that last part.
And Ted Bundy.
And Ted Bundy, that is true. 4 things. Sometimes it's okay to get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have even to like divorce. It can be against your religious beliefs. I can hold space for that. And it is an okay thing to get divorced sometime. Marriage is not an unquestioned good thing all of the time. Everyone has a capacity to grow and change. People who commit terrible acts of violence can become better people and grow and repent. I do believe that. And also, it is not automatically your responsibility to wait and see if that happens for somebody. Because just because they have capacity for it doesn't mean that they will. And you have a life to live in the meantime. Love must be tough is one lens through which you could look at relational problems. And you might even see a useful pattern. But honestly, you would get better mileage out of shitty blue paper and red 3D glasses, recreating the bifocals from National Treasure, my favorite documentary. Just throw this lens away like the rest of Dobson's legacy. I hate James Dobson.
I hate James Dobson. And now I also hate Donald Tweedle.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with Donald Tweedle? I didn't look into him because I had a lot of other shit to do.
Yeah, I've said this a million times. As far as we know, this is your one and only life. And you deserve to be happy and do the things that you want to do and be who you are. And it doesn't mean stepping on other people, but it does mean honoring who you are, right? You don't have to stay in an unhappy marriage, whether that's because it's abusive or because that's not your sexual orientation or whatever, right? Like, just calm the fuck down, James Dobson. Jeez.
I'm a huge believer in sometimes relationships run their course. And that doesn't mean that the relationship failed. That doesn't mean anyone inherently did anything wrong. Sometimes you just need to diverge. Divorce is not inherently a bad thing. Sometimes life just goes that way. It can be painful. Again, I'm not trying to downplay it, but like this assumption that marriage is good and should be lifelong and must be lifelong, I think keeps people trapped into unhelpful dynamics, to abusive dynamics. And Dobson is not only complicit in that, that's something he's actively cheering on throughout this book. Fuck that guy. Someone should do a podcast about him.
Yeah, or a blog. I hate James Dobson. I love you. And I love mashed potatoes, which I'm going to go eat now.
I love that for you.
Thanks.
All right. Readers, we will see you next time. Send us your cues and we'll do some A's soon.
Yay. Bye.
I Hate James Dobson is a labor of love, spite. Written, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Jake. In this venture, I am honored to be joined by my amazing co-host, Brooke. If you're enjoying the show, please consider rating and reviewing it. And if you want to connect with us more, you can find us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube at I Hate James Dobson, and somehow still on Twitter at IHateJDobs. You can also email us at IHateJamesDobson@gmail.com. We have merch available at IHateJamesDobson.printful.me or on our website, IHateJamesDobson.com. Our theme music is by Mood Maze and the song is called Trendsetter. Special thanks, as always, to Drew, Lindsay, DJ, Jack, and Gary. And thank you, readers, for enjoying our show. Yeah, back to something fun, like eating ass.